Hello, everybody. Could I have everybody's attention, please? The ruly crowd in the corner. Calm down. Thanks for coming, everybody. It's either like church or in school. Nobody's sitting in the front row except the brave people. So thank you for sitting up front, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's an important time for us to have some conversation, I believe, and I realize there was relatively short notice for today. So the fact that there's a good number of people who responded to phone calls that commenced as of today, or excuse me, as of yesterday, I think the turnout is impressive. So I am hopeful that you will find it to be a meaningful and worthwhile discussion. So thanks for coming. New Brunswick is an exciting, diverse, and dynamic place to call home. Throughout our 300-plus year history, people from all walks of life have moved into New Brunswick, forming new communities and shaping our city's culture, landscape, and future. During my time as mayor, and quite frankly, for the first time in over a half a century, we've experienced a dramatic increase in our population. In fact, New Brunswick is one of the fastest growing urban centers in the state of New Jersey. Our growth in population clearly evidences that more people than ever before find our city to be a desirable place to live. We can all take justifiable pride that New Brunswick does indeed keep getting better. One thing is certain, New Brunswick is a place where change is constant. More than 10 years had passed since we last considered a potential charter change. And in light of our growth, I believed it was time to re-examine our current system of a 5-member city council, all elected at large, to determine whether this was still the best method to govern ourselves. Over a year ago, I asked our city council to consider approving a ballot referendum that would ask our city's voters if they were interested in forming a city charter study commission. I thought, and still think, we are ready for change. But it is not for me to decide that direction or any direction that change would take. Rather, that is the responsibility of the people to exercise their inalienable right to self-determination. A popularly elected Charter Study Commission would have provided all of us with a platform for public discussion and debate, and I was prepared to share with the community my thoughts on expanding the City Council to 7 members, and I look to a full exploration of the advantages and disadvantages of both retaining our current at-large system or adopting a ward-based system. Shortly after the City Council's introduction of this charter study referendum ordinance, a petition was submitted to the City Council seeking to place 2 questions on the ballot to change our form of government. One in which the city would be divided into 6 wards, with a council person elected from each of the wards and 3 elected at large, and one which would retain our at-large city council but increase its size from 5 to 9 members. Quite candidly, I thought the Committee of Petitioners lacked sufficient experience in New Brunswick with its form of government to be able to make an informed decision or understand whether the forms they were proposing were the right choices for our city. Each had just recently moved to New Brunswick. When they filed their petition, 3 of the 5 members of the Committee of Petitioners had not voted in the state of New Jersey, much less New Brunswick. 2 of the Committee of Petitioners only registered to vote in New Brunswick for the first time a few months earlier in the fall of 2007. The remaining 3 members registered in our city just before submitting the petition to change our form of government. Accordingly, I felt these newcomers to New Brunswick lacked sufficient familiarity with our city, our neighborhoods, and the vast majority of our residents to fully understand our current form of government and to make an informed decision as to whether our current form should change, and if so, to what. Perhaps more troubling, I felt the petition they submitted was faulty as it actually called for 2 forms of government, both 9 members, 1 at large and 1 based on wards. In other words, which form of government was each of the signers of the petition supporting, the ward-based or the at-large, because they clearly could not support both. Because the explanatory language on the petition only referenced the ward-based system, in addition to other reasons, the city clerk rejected the petition for its inconsistency and lack of clarity. As such, I thought it was more beneficial to continue the course to have a charter study. The petitioners interpreted this as an attempt to frustrate their effort, while I am certain that the council felt the same about the petitioners who were doing the same to its efforts on the charter study. Both sides dug in their heels. Over a year later, we remain embroiled in litigation, both sides firmly convinced that they are right. But does this controversy best serve the city's residents? I would suggest to you that it does not. Perhaps most surprisingly, there has been no real conversation between the petitioners and the governing body regarding the respective advantages of either side's position. Reasonable people can disagree. Neither position is inherently right or wrong. But what would be wrong would be if both sides, if truly interested in their community and their city, continue to refuse to have meaningful dialogue and how we can best proceed to ensure New Brunswick keeps moving forward. It would be wrong for the governing body to ignore the position of a group of people that it represents. It would be equally wrong for the petitioners to ignore the position of the duly elected representatives of our citizens and the experience they bring to the table. I would hope you would all agree conversation is better than litigation. Accordingly, I propose the following. Let's suspend the present litigation. The deadline for completion of the ballot by the county clerk for this election in November is September 21st. This gives us more than 2 months of concentrated effort to see if some common ground can be found. In the interim, I will host a series of public meetings at which